This is Leadership Beyond, your community of conversation.
But this is the first time in my professional career that everybody, 100% of us, are consciously aware we are engaged in the change initiative.
Yeah, everything. I mean, COVID caused us all to go through change, right? At the same time, but our experiences were so different.
Facing these unprecedented times in isolation is pure insanity.
In our Leadership Beyond community, Tom and Adrian back again to give you just a little bit of an update of what we have going on. So as you know, we've been on a series talking about reimagining HR. We're starting to wrap that topic up. We've got some exciting couple of publications coming out to tie those things together. And then we are starting to launch into our next topic of conversation, which is all about things that are near and dear and top of mind, returning to the workplace or the hybrid workplace, depending on your situation and what your organization is deciding to do. So, Tom, do you want to expand on that a little bit? I know we've got a lot of questions. We've got a lot of things that we've been thinking about, and let's introduce the topic a little bit for our subscribers.
Yeah. We started this community of conversation around a simple idea, which is 100% of professionals are consciously aware that they're engaged in a major change initiative. And I happen to believe we always are. That's what life is about, but we're not always aware of it. And some of the trends that were accelerating, but very slowly, are now accelerating. And one of them are a more increasing number of people were either working remotely or a mixture, a hybrid. But now it's really accelerated. So we want to get the pulse of experience of leaders of what is working in terms of people leadership in this reality. And we want to look at from the individual work experience to the team dynamics to the corporate experience and see if we can flex our leadership muscles in a way that gets people engaged and producing results and still having the flexibility to not have a long commute and be with their families.
And I'm so curious as to what organizations are doing, the decisions they're making around, this whole hybrid workplace, hybrid workforce situation, because there's some big organizational decisions that have a very personal impact. I'm thinking about, do you require vaccines or not? And if not, are you requiring regular COVID tests? And if you decide to do that, what kind of system are you creating to manage all of that? Keeping track of vaccines, keeping track of employees' COVID tests. Do you mandate masks? If you do all of those things, then what does that look like? How are your employees feeling about that? You're bound to have varying opinions, some very strong opinions and personal perspectives on those issues, those decisions, and it's going to create, I think, some conflict that we can anticipate in the workplace. And so how are we anticipating that, and what tools are we starting to employ with our leadership to make sure that we're addressing those things in the best way possible?
Yeah, those are the questions we want to explore, and we welcome anybody to come in who thinks that their experience would be helpful. We'd love to interview you. So we have the COVID mandates, and then we have the fact that people want to recruit the best workers, and many times they say the way we do this is to be flexible. But what does that even mean? Flexible how? And so now you have somebody in Colorado and somebody in Chicago and somebody that's fine. How are we going to communicate? And how are we going to get work done together? And the most tempting thing is just to write a policy. But there isn't a one, you need a policy. I'm not advocating against policy, but there isn't a one size fits all. So how do we adapt, but also be clear, there still has to be expectations. And anytime you are flexible, you give something up as well as gain something. There's trade-offs. I read an article about, and the company was well-intentioned, and I'm not criticizing the company in any way, but one of the women on the team logged in. She was invited to the meetings. She logged into the meetings, and maybe there were more than one, but most of them were in the conference room, and she felt like she was missing out. And the manager said, everybody can just log in from their own desks right there at the office. And I read that and I thought, that doesn't seem like a good solution. Let's have all the same experience, when in fact she chose not to come in. But on the other hand, we have to be careful that she doesn't miss promotions and that she doesn't miss out on big things, but she is going to miss out by choice on the experience of coming together in a conference room with your colleagues. And she's choosing to do that, so she shouldn't be discriminated against for it. But the idea that you don't lose anything, that it's net gain for everybody, you're just going to have to find another planet to live on if you think you can do that. You can't please everybody.
And there's going to be trade-offs on both sides of that, coming into the office again, continuing to work remotely again, and for managers having to navigate teams that are doing both of those things and colleagues that are doing both of those things. I know some organizations were a bit of pioneers with the remote working workforce pre-COVID, and I'd love to hear from some of those organizations and tap into the experience and the best practices that they have found from having what is a hybrid team model pre-COVID. Let's see what experiences they have, what kind of management techniques did they put in place for their leadership teams to work on making sure that they had the best teams and the most optimal high-performing teams. What does that look like, and how do we address those things? And you're right, Tom, it's going to be a delicate balance, let's say. I don't think it will be necessarily equal. I'm careful to not use that word equity, but you'll want to pay attention to the balance of access to opportunity and experience, regardless of where your employees are positioned within their chosen work locations. So much to talk about. If anyone is passionate about this topic or has best practices to share, please contact Tom or I. We'd love to get you on the schedule and have a discussion about it.
And I would like to add to best practices mistakes that we've made.
Yes.
I was talking to someone the other day, and she said, I don't think I handled this right. That's just as much learning as a best practice. If you can save one of your colleagues, yeah, sometimes more. So we really invite you. We've got two issues on the table that I'm hearing. How do we deal with the COVID reality and the medical and the healthcare? And how do we deal with this feeling not a part of something if you aren't in, but not willing to do what it takes to come in? And how do we make sure that inequality doesn't become missing out on opportunities or have a dimension? If a woman chooses to be home with her kids, that's a choice, and we want to honor it and support it and not have her miss out. But she is missing out on something. We just have to tell the truth of what that is and make as inclusive as we can possibly make it. But we still have to produce results. So we've outlined the problems. We have some ideas in the solution. And as Adrian said, we really want yours. We'll be doing some interviews on this and perhaps end with an expert panel like we're doing with the Reimagining HR.
Yeah. So do we call this a call for participation? Similar to a conference call for speakers. Call for participation.
Give us your insights, your challenges, your struggles, and your successes, and let's learn together, because hybrid leadership is a leadership beyond.
Love it. I can't wait till what comes next.
That's exciting.
Take care, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Leadership Beyond podcast. We hope you benefited from this conversation as much as we have. We invite you to join our community of conversation. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to sign up at aleadershipbeyond.com for free materials and updates. That's aleadershipbeyond.com. Join us in 2 weeks for our next episode.